Do you find yourself spending hours in the field trying to capture gorgeous wildlife shots, only to come home with images that are like, they're okay, but they're not really great? Then maybe one of these mistakes is holding you back. Welcome back, my friends. Grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you prefer. The mistakes I'll cover here are mistakes that will help you take one step further and raise yourself above the okay level. And do stick around till the end, because I'll share a really strange mistake, but it's one that has held me back for years. The first mistake is a big one in raising yourself above the okay level, and that is not going for the hero shot or your dream shot. And this is often when there's a mismatch between your vision or your dream shot and your methods. Imagine a shot that you'd really like to capture and have that clearly in your mind. What would you like to capture that would simply make your day and make an awesome portfolio shot? So let's take a look at what really needs to fall into place for this to happen. First of all, at which location can you actually capture this? And try to be more specific than just at the lake. Try to be as specific at this side of the lake or at this particular shoreline, these 20, 30 meters, this might be possible. As specific as possible is really the key. And when you choose your location, you should keep in mind the light that you need. Let's say that you want a backlit shot, so you can get that nice glow in the feathers of some water birds. Is that possible at that location? And at what time can you get this light? Also, is that shot you have in mind really possible with the gear you have? Do you need to rent gear? Do you need to rent an 800mm lens or 600mm lens to get that shot? Or should you instead try to think of another shot that's possible with the gear that you already own? So what you have now is a recipe that you can follow step by step for getting that dream shot within a few tries. But if you continue to shoot the way you're used to and expect different results, then there's a mismatch between your vision and the methods. And this means that you'll actually never get the shot. So that's a huge mistake in a way. Now for the next mistake, we're still trying to capture the dream shot, but there's some more things that can hinder this. And that's not having any anticipation. When you're at the location, don't just take a shot from where you are. Of course, you might already have thought about your position, but you likely, in your dream shots, there's likely also some specific type of behavior that this animal is doing. Safe shots are okay. Of course, we need to document that we've been there, but still, anticipation of what the animal is going to do next will make sure that you're prepared to capturing that fleeting moment, which it probably is. So let's take an example of geese at a small lake. If you've watched geese and their behavior, then you know that at a certain time, they'll probably bask their wings, like do this very beautiful. If you've positioned yourself correct, then you know that the sun will hit the wings when they do that. But how can you be ready when they actually bask their wings? If you've watched geese for a little while, then you know that they start like diving a little bit into the water and clean their feathers. And after that, they'll flap their wings. So what you have to do at the lake is just watch what the geese are doing. And when you spot one tending to its feathers, stick with that bird and see what it does. And for any animal, and I think actually this is possible if you pay enough attention to what exactly the animals are doing at what time and in what order, And once you start to anticipate things, you'll get home with better shots that are not just plain boring portraits. I think many of us are a bit lazy and often just go for the snapshot. This means that we have poor footwork. Instead of just bringing ourselves into the position, with a few steps, we can actually get our dream shots. It's just a matter of either lying down or moving a few meters to the right or to the left to get that light, to get that background, to get that separation that I talked about in the earlier videos. And this is often just due to a little bit of laziness when we spot our subject. So that's something that you can easily fix. Now, the next mistake is probably mistake number one of all of them, and this is focusing too much on gear. We all dream of gear, having better gear, and myself included. The thing is, dreaming of gears won't let us improve. Some shots might be possible when we get that gears, but instead of focusing on not having the right gear, and this is hindering us in getting out and capturing the shots that are already possible, I think we should turn it around. What type of shots are possible with the gear that we already own? I have a 400mm. I dream of a 600mm f4 with an built-in teleconverter. I think that's the ultimate lens for all Nikon photographers and probably Canon, Sony as well. But I don't have that. So when I do deer photography, I have a few choices. I could put on a teleconverter. I tried that. I think the image quality suffers a bit. So I could become better at stalking or getting closer to the deers, or I could sit in a hide and wait, and that takes a really long time. And that's one option I have. But I could also, for the time being, until I have improved these skills, I could go to a deer park and get closer to deers and improve my photography that way. And I've done that recently. Another thing I could do is learn how to get closer to waterfowls, because that's also an issue with a 400mm. If the water birds are like a little bit skittish, which they are in my local area, I don't want to get ahead of myself, because this is the little bit strange last mistake that I've been doing for years. So this is related to the gear I have. So let's talk about that later. Now, to raise ourselves above the okay plateau, I think we must start to think about life if we aren't doing it already. So that's a huge mistake if you're just going out high noon and trying to capture gorgeous shots. So we really need to avoid those harsh shadows and that harsh light, because it's not pleasing. It'll give you too much reflections also in the image, not just the shadows. Go out in the golden hour, or go out early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun is low in the sky. Make up your mind. What type of light do you want? Do you want front lighting? And for what reason do you want it? Do you want side lighting? For what reason? Do you want that three-dimensionality with a little bit of shadow on one, soft shadow on one side? Or do you want backlighting so you can better see the glow of the outline of the animal? What do you want? And so again, shoot with intent. That'll make your images so much better. Again, this next mistake is also a big one. This is pixel peeping. This is when we focus on the image quality instead of light composition and storytelling. Of course, image quality is important, but it's not that important. We need sharp photos, but if the sharpness between two lenses is barely noticeable, then there's no need to worry about it. Of course, we need to fix the things that keeps us from getting sharp images. And that could be, for instance, not getting close enough. If we don't get close enough, and we talked about the opposite of getting too close where we scare the animals away, but let's just take the example of not getting close enough where the animal is so far away that you can't focus on the eye. If you can't do that, then once you crop in the image, the image will look soft because you have to crop so much and there's not enough details. So that's a time to pixel peep. Now, not getting close enough is often a matter of using the wrong approach for the subject. Some subjects are skittish, and this means that we have to arrive before dawn, so they don't see us coming. And then if you just sit still and maybe use a bit of camouflage, then we can get as close as we need. It could also be sitting in a hide or something like that. But it could also be that we're simply using the wrong focal length for the subject that we want to capture. If we don't have the reach, then I would suggest find another subject until you can get that reach. When we start out in photography, there's so many things to keep an eye out for to capture great images. And one of the common ones to forget is actually how we hold the camera and if we're holding it straight so the horizon line isn't tilted. And this is such an easy fix. The thing to do is simply to turn on virtual horizon line in your camera, and then the first few shots you take might be a little bit tilted. But once you get used to looking at this virtual horizon, then you know that the line has to be green for the image to be straight. So you don't have to fix it in post. But why is it a problem of fixing it in post-processing? We lose pixels, and if you're really bad at holding the camera straight, this means that the composition that you intended is not going to happen because you have to crop out so much that maybe you have to give a lot of looking space for the animal. So, and it's a really easy fix. The next mistake is a little contrary to one of the mistakes that I mentioned in the first video, which was like being afraid of using a high ISO. This one is a little bit the opposite. With a high ISO, you don't only get noise issues, you're also losing details and the dynamic range. So that is the amount of tonality you can get between dark shadows and bright highlights. This means that you'll have less image data to play with to get these details in the photos later on. So you shouldn't mindlessly shoot with a high ISO. Try to get as low as possible, but when the time comes for taking that shot with ISO 6400, take it, because it might turn out good enough for you. Just be aware that once you use it, you will lose some image quality. Now, in the beginning, I promised you a strange mistake, and it's one that's held me back for years. And I wish that I fixed it sooner. And this is not allowing yourself to be a nerd or a geek. In the beginning, I kind of smiled a little bit of those photographers who dressed up in camouflage, thinking, they're a bit strange. Time and time again, I could see that their images were way better than mine. So I started thinking, maybe there's something to it. They can get so much closer than I could. And this has held me back for maybe the first 5 years as a nature photographer. If you allow yourself to use camouflage and look into the techniques to get closer, or buy yourself a pop-up hide and place it in a location where animals frequently come, then you can get shots that you can't really without. Unless, of course, you stay within like really parks with really comfortable animals that are not skittish at all. Then you can still get great shots of those without using camouflage. But using camouflage is a step that I think you should take. Don't use it in the city, don't use it in the park, but out in an open field or in the forest, go for it. It's also a very thrilling way of doing wildlife photography. And this is also related to using our gear the best way possible. I have a 400mm, which should be enough, but can you imagine when I'm at a lake, at the shore side, the coots and the creeps are hiding behind some reeds. No matter if I had a 600mm, I couldn't get those shots of the coots fighting or the creeps doing their mating ritual because they're out of sight. But guess what? My next purchase in this geeky or nerdy camouflage department is something that will allow me to capture these. I have just bought a dry shoot and a floating hide, and in upcoming videos I'll try to see if I can improve my images of waterbirds by using these. So if you're interested in that, do stick around. I think it'll be fun. Be a geek, be a nerd, you have my permission, and if you allow yourself to do that as well, I think you will get some way better shots. This was a lot to cover, and if you can't remember all of these mistakes, don't worry, just rewind, watch the video again, take some notes, pick 1 or 2 mistakes that you really want to get rid of, and start with these. 1 session per mistake, and then you can build from there, getting rid of all of these mistakes one by one. And if you haven't watched the first video, I suggest that you do so, because even though there are a lot of common mistakes, there's also some that are really hard to spot in your own photography, unless you get them pointed out. And that's all I have for you. See you in the next video. Take care.